The deception Marcus Webb's eyes opened to sterile white walls and the soft hum of machinery. His head felt heavy, like swimming up from deep water. The last thing he remembered was walking into the medical center for his mandatory health screening, required for all construction workers on the new colony project. Now he lay in what looked like a hospital bed, but something felt wrong. The room was too pristine, too advanced. Equipment lined the walls that he didn't recognize, with displays showing symbols that definitely weren't human. His mouth tasted metallic, and when he tried to sit up, a wave of dizziness hit him. Please remain still. You're experiencing normal side effects from the neural mapping process. The voice belonged to a woman standing near a console he hadn't noticed before. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the artificial lighting. Her hair was silver white, pulled back in a severe style, and her eyes were an unusual violet color. She wore what looked like a lab coat, but the material seemed to shift and change texture as she moved. Marcus blinked hard, wondering if he was hallucinating. Neural mapping? Lady, I just came in for a routine checkup. Where am I? She approached his bed with measured steps, holding a device that resembled a tablet, but projected holographic displays above its surface. My name is Zephyrah Kane. I'm a research specialist in bioneural compatibility studies. You're in our advanced medical facility. Advanced medical facility? Marcus tried to sit up again, fighting through the dizziness. What happened to the Colony Medical Center? And what do you mean bioneural compatibility? Zephyrah paused, her violet eyes studying him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. The facility you entered was one of our screening stations. We've been monitoring human colonists for specific genetic and neurological markers. You tested positive for exceptional compatibility. Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. Compatibility with what? With our neural interface technology. She gestured to the equipment around them. Humans possess a unique neuroplasticity that we've found useful for our research purposes. Marcus swung his legs over the side of the bed, ignoring the spinning sensation. He was still wearing his work clothes, but they felt different, somehow lighter. I want to leave now. I'm afraid that's not possible. Zephyrah's voice remained calm, clinical. You've been selected for a very important project, one that could benefit both our species. Selected? Marcus stood up, steadying himself against the bed. You mean kidnapped? For the first time, something flickered across Zephyrah's expression. Not quite guilt, but something close to it. You were acquired according to our protocols. Your psychological profile, neural density, and adaptation markers all indicate you're an ideal candidate for Phase 1 testing. Marcus looked around the room more carefully now. No windows. One door, and he was willing to bet it was locked. How many others have you acquired for this project? Zephyrah hesitated before answering. You're the 43rd human subject we've processed through this facility? 43rd. The number hit him like a physical blow. What happened to the other 42? Most completed their testing cycles successfully and were relocated to integration facilities. Her clinical tone faltered slightly. Some experienced complications. Marcus stepped toward her and she didn't back away. Up close he could see that her skin wasn't just blue, but had an almost opalescent quality, like looking at oil on water. What kind of complications? Neural rejection syndrome, memory fragmentation, in severe cases, complete cognitive collapse. She said it like she was reading from a medical textbook, but Marcus caught the slight tremor in her voice. You mean you drove them insane? We're learning to prevent those outcomes. The neural bridge technology has been refined significantly since our early trials. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, hot and sharp. Neural bridge? Zephyrah activated. Her device and holographic images appeared between them. Marcus saw brain scans, neural pathways mapped in glowing colors, and what looked like some kind of implant design. Our species developed neural interface technology centuries ago. It allows us to share thoughts, emotions, even memories directly. But our neural architecture is very different from yours. She manipulated the display, showing human and alien brain scans side by side. Humans have something we lack, the ability to adapt, to change neural pathways rapidly under stress. Your minds are chaotic, unpredictable, but incredibly flexible. We believe that by creating a bridge between our neural networks and yours, we can enhance our own cognitive abilities. So you're using us as lab rats to upgrade yourselves. It's more complex than that. For the first time, Zephyra's professional mask slipped completely. The bridge works both ways. We don't just take from human minds, we share our knowledge, our memories, our experiences. Marcus stared at her. You've done this before, the bridge thing. You've connected with other humans. She nodded slowly. I was the primary researcher on 37 of the previous subjects. And? Zephyra turned away from him, walking to the far wall where more equipment hummed quietly. Each connection was educational. Humans think differently than we do. Your emotions are stronger, more chaotic. Your creativity stems from this chaos in ways that our ordered minds cannot replicate. Marcus followed her. That's not what I asked. What happened to you when you connected with them? She was quiet for a long moment, her back still to him. When she spoke, her voice was softer. I began to understand things I had never experienced. Fear, yes, but also hope. Desperation coupled with determination. Humans face impossible odds and somehow find ways to survive, to adapt, to overcome. And that scares your people. It fascinates them. She turned back to face him. Which is why the research continues. Marcus studied her face, looking for tells, for any sign of deception. But not you, you're scared. Zephyra's violet eyes met his directly. I'm terrified. The admission hung between them like a live wire. Marcus hadn't expected honesty and certainly not vulnerability. Of what? Of what I'm becoming. She gestured to her equipment. Each neural bridge session changes me. I retain fragments of human thought patterns, emotional responses, ways of seeing the world that are completely foreign to my species. My supervisors call it contamination. But you call it growth. The word came out barely above a whisper. Marcus moved closer to her, and this time she did take a step back. Then why keep doing it? Why not let me go? Because, Zephyra said, her voice growing stronger, you're different from the others. Your neural patterns show something I've never seen before. Complete resistance to our standard suppression protocols. In simulation, your mind doesn't just adapt to the bridge technology, it actively improves it. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Meaning what? Meaning when we connect, I won't just be studying your mind. You'll be changing mine in ways I can't predict or control. She looked directly at him. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen. Before Marcus could respond, a sharp tone echoed through the room. Zephyra immediately moved to her console, her fingers dancing over controls that responded with soft chimes. What is it? Commander Thane is requesting a status update. Her face had gone pale. He's not scheduled to check on our progress for another 2 days. Is that bad? Zephyra looked at him with something that might have been regret. It means someone has been monitoring our sessions. Someone knows I've been deviating from standard protocols. The door hissed open without warning. A figure stepped through that made Marcus's breath catch. If Zephyra was tall, this newcomer was massive, easily 7 feet, with the same blue-tinted skin but darker, more pronounced features. Military bearing, armor-like clothing, and eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Caney, the figure spoke in a voice like grinding stone. Status report on Subject 43. Zephyra straightened, her professional mask sliding back into place. Commander Thane, initial scans are complete. The subject shows promising neural compatibility markers. Thane's gaze shifted to Marcus, and it felt like being evaluated by a predator. This is the one showing resistance to standard suppression? Yes, sir. His neural architecture is unique. Indeed. Thane stepped closer to Marcus, who forced himself not to back away. Human, you will submit to the bridge procedure willingly, or we will perform it while you're unconscious. The choice is yours. Marcus looked between Thane and Zephyra. The alien woman's eyes held a message he couldn't quite read. Warning, perhaps, or plea. He made his decision. I'll do it, conscious. Thane's expression showed approval. Excellent. Dr. Caney, you will begin the bridge procedure immediately. I want preliminary results within the hour. Sir, standard protocols recommend a 48-hour preparation period. Standard protocols have been updated. Thane's voice cut through her objection. This facility has fallen behind schedule. We need results, not excuses. After Thane left, Zephyra stood frozen by her console. Marcus could see her hands shaking slightly. This isn't how it was supposed to happen, is it? She shook her head. The neural bridge requires careful calibration. Rushing the process could cause permanent damage to both our minds. Marcus sat back down on the bed. But we're going to do it anyway. We don't have a choice. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. Beneath the alien features, beneath the professional detachment, he saw something he recognized. Someone trapped by circumstances beyond her control, trying to do the right thing in an impossible situation. Maybe we do, he said quietly. Zephyra turned toward him. What do you mean? You said my mind actively improves your bridge technology. What if that's not an accident? What if humans were never meant to be test subjects? Marcus stood up again, his mind racing. What if we were meant to be partners? The experiment deepened. Zephyra stared at Marcus for a long moment, her violet eyes searching his face. Partners? That's not how this works. The bridge technology was designed for extraction and analysis, not cooperation. Maybe that's why it keeps failing. Marcus moved closer to the neural interface equipment, studying the alien technology with the eye of someone who built things for a living. You're trying to force a connection instead of allowing one to form naturally. The neural pathways don't simply form connections on their own. The bridge requires precise calibration, specific frequency modulations, and trust. Marcus interrupted. Every successful partnership I've ever been part of required trust. You can't force someone to work with you and expect good results. Zephyra's fingers hovered over her control console. Commander Thane expects results in 57 minutes. If I don't begin the standard procedure, then show him something better. Marcus sat on the examination chair that dominated the center of the room. You said I was different from the other subjects. Maybe it's time to try a different approach. Zephyra hesitated, then began activating systems around the room. Soft blue light emanated from panels in the walls, and the air itself seemed to thicken with energy. The neural bridge requires direct interface contact. I'll need to place sensors on your skull and spine. Will it hurt? Unknown. Previous subjects were unconscious during initial contact. She approached with what looked like metallic mesh dotted with small nodes. Marcus, you need to understand. Once the bridge is active, I'll have access to your thoughts, your memories, your emotions. There will be no privacy between us. Marcus looked up at her as she positioned the neural mesh around his head. Will you have access, or will we share access? I don't understand the distinction. You keep talking like this is something you're doing to me. What if it's something we're doing together? Zephyra paused, the mesh halfway positioned. The bridge technology wasn't designed for mutual access. Vorthak minds are structured for receiving and processing information. Human minds are chaotic, or creative. She finished securing the mesh and moved to attach sensors along his spine. Her touch was surprisingly gentle, and Marcus noticed that her hands were warmer than human normal. Our previous research indicates that human thought patterns introduce unpredictable variables into Vorthak neural networks. Maybe that's exactly what your networks need. Zephyra connected the final sensor and stepped back to her console. Arrays of holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing brain patterns, energy flows, and symbols Marcus couldn't interpret. Preliminary scans show your neural activity is already responding to the bridge field. That's unusual. Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation starting at the base of his skull and spreading down his spine. What's supposed to happen now? Standard protocol calls for gradual interface integration over several hours, but your brain is actively reaching out to the bridge network. Zephyr's voice carried a note of wonder. It's like your neural pathways are trying to complete the connection on their own. The tingling sensation intensified, and Marcus began to perceive something beyond his normal senses. It felt like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, sensing the depth and movement of something immense just beyond his reach. Zephyra, I can feel something. It's like there's someone else here. She looked up sharply from her displays. That shouldn't be possible yet. The bridge isn't fully active. She checked her readings again. Marcus, your brain is somehow boosting the signal strength. You're forcing the connection to form faster than our equipment can regulate it. The sensation grew stronger. Marcus could sense thoughts that weren't his own. Emotions filtered through an alien perspective. Fear, curiosity, loneliness, and underneath it all, a desperate hunger for something he couldn't name. Zephyra, are you feeling this too? I'm not connected to the bridge yet. The protocol requires... Forget the protocol. Marcus turned to look at her directly. Something is happening here and you're missing it because you're too worried about following rules. Zephyra stared at her displays, then at Marcus. The readings showed neural activity levels far beyond anything in their previous experiments. If I connect now without proper safeguards, the feedback could damage both our minds, or it could work the way it was meant to work. She hesitated for another moment, then reached for a second neural mesh. This goes against every safety protocol we've established. Sometimes the best discoveries happen when you break the rules. Zephyra positioned the mesh on her own head, her hands shaking slightly. Marcus, if this goes wrong, it won't. She activated the connection. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Marcus felt his consciousness suddenly expand, like stepping from a small room into a vast cathedral. But he wasn't alone in that space. Zephyra was there too, her thoughts and emotions suddenly as clear to him as his own. He experienced her fear, first, not just of the experiment but of losing herself in the connection. He felt her loneliness, centuries of clinical detachment from her own emotions and those of others. But underneath that, he sensed something else. A deep curiosity about what it meant to truly feel. Through the bridge, Zephyra experienced Marcus's mind like diving into a storm. His thoughts moved in patterns she'd never encountered, leaping from idea to idea with connections that seemed random, but somehow worked. She felt his determination, his refusal to accept impossible situations, and his instinctive trust in her, despite everything. This is incredible. Zephyra's voice came both audibly and directly into Marcus's thoughts. Your mind is teaching my new pathways, new ways of processing information, and yours is showing me how to organize all this chaos, Marcus replied, marveling at how his scattered thoughts were suddenly arranging themselves into clearer patterns. We're not just sharing information, we're improving each other. Through the bridge. They began to understand things neither could have grasped alone. Marcus saw the true scope of the Vorthak research program, not just neural bridge technology, but a desperate attempt to evolve beyond the limitations of their highly ordered society. Their species had achieved perfect efficiency, but in doing so they'd lost the ability to innovate, to adapt, to grow. Zephyra experienced human resilience from the inside, feeling how Marcus's mind automatically searched for solutions even in hopeless situations. She understood why humans survived and thrived in conditions that would break other species, not despite their chaotic nature, but because of it. My people are dying. Zephyra's thought came heavy with emotion Marcus had never felt from her before. Not physically, but intellectually, creatively. We've become so focused on perfection that we've lost the ability to change. That's why you're studying us, Marcus realized. You're not trying to control human minds, you're trying to learn how to be human. Yes, but the High Council doesn't see it that way. They view human unpredictability as a weapon to be harnessed, not a gift to be shared. Their shared understanding was interrupted by an alarm. The laboratory's security systems had detected the unauthorized neural bridge activation. Commander Thane's voice echoed through the facility's communication system. Dr. Caney, report to command immediately. Bring Subject 43. Through the bridge, Marcus felt Zephyra's terror, not of punishment, but of losing this connection they'd formed. They'll separate us, she thought. They'll study what we've accomplished and try to replicate it with other subjects. Then we don't let them. Marcus, they have an entire military installation here. We can't fight them. We don't fight them, Marcus replied, his mind already working on possibilities. We show them something better. Marcus stood up, the neural mesh still active, maintaining their connection. Through the bridge, he could feel Zephyra's confusion at his calm confidence. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that your people need to understand what human partnership really means. Marcus moved toward the laboratory's main console. Can you access the facility's communication systems through this equipment? Yes, but why would... Zephyra stopped as she felt his plan forming through their shared consciousness. Marcus, that's incredibly dangerous. If Commander Thane realizes what we're doing, he'll have to choose between his old ways and something that actually works. Working together through the neural bridge, their combined consciousness interfacing with the laboratory's systems in ways neither could have managed alone, Marcus and Zephyra began to broadcast their shared experience throughout the facility. Every Vorthak in the installation suddenly felt what it was like to think like a human. The chaos, yes, but also the incredible adaptability, the refusal to accept limitations, the ability to find hope in hopeless situations. At the same time, every human subject in the facility experienced Vorthak mental clarity, the ability to see patterns and connections that their chaotic minds usually missed. The effect was immediate and profound. Throughout the installation, Vorthak researchers began to understand their subjects not as test cases, but as potential partners. Human subjects, for the first time since their capture, felt hope that their situation might lead to something meaningful, rather than just suffering. Commander Thane burst into the laboratory, his massive frame filling the doorway. But he stopped when he saw Marcus and Zephyra working in perfect synchronization, their thoughts visibly flowing between them through the holographic displays. What have you done? He demanded. Marcus and Zephyra turned to face him, speaking in unison, their voices harmonizing in ways that shouldn't have been possible. We've shown you what cooperation looks like. Thane stared at them, and through the facility-wide broadcast he could feel echoes of their connection. For the first time in his military career, he was experiencing doubt, creativity, the human ability to see beyond established parameters. This is not what was ordered, he said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. No, Zephyra replied, her own voice stronger than Marcus had ever heard it. This is what was needed. Marcus stepped forward, the neural mesh still connecting him to both Zephyra and the facility's systems. Commander, your people are looking for a way to evolve. So are mine. Maybe it's time we stopped trying to do it separately. Through the bridge, Thane felt the truth of those words. He also felt something he'd never experienced before, the possibility that there might be better ways to achieve their goals than force and control. The neural bridge hummed with energy as 3 species worth of consciousness briefly touched, sharing understanding across the vast gulf between their different ways of thinking. And in that moment, something new was born. Not Vorthak, not human, but something that incorporated the best of both. The experiment had succeeded, but not in any way the original protocols had anticipated.